It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Very, very well. Still pissed off about the Eagles, but we'll press on.
We'll press on. We'll probably come on to them later.
Must we?
I think we must, but we won't go into that straight away. It's week 12. It's Thanksgiving. It's Wednesday evening here in the UK. For those listening today from listening now in the States, it's Thursday, Friday. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoyed your turkey. Enjoyed your yams, as I believe you call them.
What are yams?
Sweet potato, right?
Is that what it is?
I think so. And enjoyed all the rest of your many different pies that you seem to enjoy. And obviously enjoyed your 3 games of football. As usual, although I haven't checked this with Neil, we usually don't focus on the Thanksgiving games for our fancy darlings, losers, or the teams of the week. I know I haven't, because people listen to this over the next few days rather than just in the next few hours, because we are less than 24 hours away from the second game kicking off.
Yeah, it was a separate slate for the Thursday games, so it would have been we would have had to have done a slate for the 3 games on Thanksgiving and the main slate, and that just seemed like too much hard work.
It doesn't. I don't think many of us want to talk about how well Chase Daniel or Colt McCoy are going to play. You
do realise, though, the parallels of a young coach, a quarterback in the second year playing at an MVP level with a great defence, then all of a sudden the backup quarterback has to come in. Yeah, the Chicago Bears are the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what Fred Rank seems to think, anyway.
Yeah, what's your definition of MVP level?
Fancy MVP.
Yeah, I was going to say, really good at, stuff other than throwing. Really good at throwing to wide open spaces because his coach is really good at his job. Yeah, okay, that's cool. MVP? Probably not Drew Brees.
Not on my watch, no.
No. So, usual fare. We're going to plug into the mains. We're obviously one of the... breaking news. The first story we'll talk about and plugged into the mains happened on Monday night, Tuesday morning in the UK. Then obviously Fancy Darling, Fancy Loser, and then Team of the Week, DFS, which I was 2-0 last week. If anyone remembers, Neil picked one side of the Saints-Eagles game and I picked the other. Can you guess which one got it right?
Luckily, I didn't start the quarterback I got wrong in our league of record, though.
No, I did. And he got minus points. I think the Chal, who I played, got more points from his quarterback than I got from my whole team this week.
Yeah.
Special.
But Cam Newton's points on your bench look lovely.
They did, yeah. Although he can screw off with his wide open receiver miss in the final play of the game. So let's get this started. Let's plug into the mains. 105 points. A lot of penalties, 13 in all. And weirdly, 2 of the MVP favourites kind of almost hurt their stock slightly. That being Patrick Mahomes, who was brilliant, yet also 3 interceptions and 2 lost fumbles, both returned for touchdowns. And Todd Gurley, if you woke up on Tuesday and didn't watch the game and saw that the Rams had scored 54 points, you would have thought, I've got Gurley, this is going to be amazing. He had less than 100 yards. Neil, you've watched the game. What did you think of it?
Well, this is the model what the NFL is becoming. This, it's a flash in the pan. It's a drop in the ocean. Not every game is going to be like that, but that's the type of offensive production that is going to happen when we have coaches like Sean McVay, who's young. He's got fresh ideas, a new perspective on how he wants to call the game, and also you've got a coach like Andy Reid who has changed his spot. It was two teams top heavy with talent. And pretty much everyone answered the bell. Todd Gurley, in his defence, was hurt. He got his ankle rolled up on. But he stayed in the game for a long part because he's a phenomenal pass protector. And the best thing as well, this game was... The Rams were never chasing the game. In fact, they had 10-point leads twice, I seem to think. But Sean McVay realised, running's not going to win. We're not going to win this on the ground. We're going to have to take to the air. And you say that Gurley hit his MVP chance anyway. Gurley shouldn't be MVP. He's a running back and he's having wide open lanes punched for him by a great offensive line. But I digress. Patrick Mahomes, couple of bad throws, but it wasn't like he threw 3 interceptions against the Oakland Raiders. He threw them against a defense that literally was in his face all game, thanks to, seriously, one of the most dominant defensive players in a single season we'll ever see. What Aaron Donald is doing this season is nothing short of phenomenal for a defensive tackle.
It's where I find quite interesting that, you know, there's a lot of people, naysayers, so to speak, who say, "Oh, where's the defense?" Like there was defense. Like,
yeah.
That was a Big 12 game. It wasn't a Big 12 game. I watched the Big 12 game 2 weeks previous, Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State, where what basically may as well have been traffic cones as defenders. There were defenders in this game. There was multiple defensive plays. It's just the offense is ahead at the moment. The NFL has done this a lot. And offense is miles ahead at the moment. Concerns, if I am those two teams, and I do have them, that's a very Andy Reid loss.
Well, wasn't it written in the stars that if there was ever going to be a coach who would score 50 points and lose a game, it would be Andy Reid?
It's like Andy Reid somehow has 2 minutes left and his 3 timeouts available for the first time ever, and it doesn't work out for him. That's twice the Chiefs have lost while scoring over 40 points this year. That's concerning. And it's just, I love Andy Reid. We discuss it a lot. But that is concern for me. I love Sean McVay. I think he's amazing. He's probably the most innovative offensive coach at the moment. Sean Payton, just call me and we can have a chat about it. However, he stank of Washington in that last quarter. Like literally, you must have got like nervous flashbacks to being back in burgundy and gold, because he stank of Washington, and that final drive is not what he is about. And I know it sounds ridiculous that we're nitpicking over 54 points, but the last drive nearly cost his team the game.
Yeah. And he's not as aggressive a play caller in the fourth quarter of games. Chris Wessling pointing that out. I don't know what it is, whether it's his innate sportsmanship that he doesn't want to run the clock up, the score up on anyone, but you can't let teams off the hook, especially if the next time you face that team could very well be in the Super Bowl. And say what you like about Andy Reid, he doesn't tend to make the same mistake in the same season. So he would correct that. I think the concerns are valid. I mean, nowadays, there is no shutdown defence anymore. Your defence is there now to make enough plays for you to score on more of your drives than them. Unless you're playing anemic offences, which there are still a few in the NFL. You support one of them.
Whoa. Those in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones, by the way.
I know. That's, as I said, I was more concerned about the 7 than the 48.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly.
But, I just think, to say there's defensive playmakers, I say Aaron Donald was a superstar. He's a wrecking machine. But the NFL is not going to be, you're not going to shut teams out unless they are really, really bad. And, that's what we've seen a few times this season with a few shutouts. You just need to make a few plays. And ultimately, the Rams had a couple of defensive players who made plays, whereas the Chiefs didn't. And I think that was the big difference. It
was a wonderful game, and I think a lot of people hope to see it again. But I just look at, say, at the moment, I look at how the Saints are playing, and maybe not how they're playing at the moment, but how the Patriots can play. And they both have a killer instinct that I sometimes feel that maybe the Rams and the Chiefs lack. And that's not to denigrate them in any way. It's just sometimes you need to do stuff that is a little bit not what the norm is, and you need to do things a bit differently. And I think we know that Sean Payton, he's basically just refusing to punt this season, which is fine. It makes sense, and his team's permanently scoring points, so it makes sense. And the Patriots have done this multiple times.
was it Kevin Clark who tweeted out saying it was a disgrace that the Saints have a player who's the highest paid player at his position in the NFL, and he's getting trotted out for 2 plays a game?
Yeah,
i.e.
exactly.
Thomas Morstead.
As is Tommy Morstead. Yeah. There's a lot of teams you could do with Thomas Morstead right now. I think I'll be honest. I know Vegas may say otherwise. I'd be stunned if that was the Super Bowl. I'd actually be highly surprised if one of those teams made the Super Bowl.
I can see exactly what you're saying. I think we're looking at it through a very positive haze at the moment because of what a game it was. But yeah, it's as I say, I think there are teams in both conferences who are a little bit more ruthless and won't let their opponents off the hook as much as those 2 teams did.
And I look at a friend of yours. I was listening to Mr. Michael Lombardi, and he was talking about tempo, and I think that's where these guys just run at 150 mile an hour, right? And I wondered if, like the Saints, for example, can run the ball more, and like the Rams run the ball, but they only run the ball to score, if you know what I mean. Like the Saints could actually run the ball to kill a clock. And
they have a sustaining element.
And that's what the Patriots did against the Chiefs. Now, it's still bizarre that the Chiefs then scored 40 points, but they had a minimum amount of drives to score those 40 points. So I just wonder. It was a great game, and I recommend everyone should watch it. And I understand that, there's a lot of old people who get off my lawn related to it. But you know what? I liked it.
Ron Rivera didn't. I prefer 7 to 6 games. Go away.
Yeah, but that's interesting. Man. That's interesting, Ron, because in 1985, if you would have gone for you would have said to Mike Dicker or Buddy Ryan, you were going for 2 points because you didn't trust your defense. You would have got shot. So you can wind your neck in about 7 to 6 because you decided that you didn't think your team was good enough to beat the Lions.
Yeah.
In overtime, so behave yourself.
A Lions team that kept giving the ball to LeGarrette Blount. God, it's over. It's over, mate. As I said, every time LeGarrette Blount gets the ball on 1st and 10, a fairy loses their wings. It's a tragedy.
It is, but with Kerryon Johnson injured, that's another man we might see an awful lot of tomorrow.
No, Zach Zenner time.
Second one, Dutton, speaking of terrible football, this week I read from Amy Trask on Twitter that in a weird twist of fate, all 32 teams can still make the playoffs in the NFL, which is exactly what the NFL wants. Now, we know some of them can't. However, there is a game this week between a 3-7 team and a 4-6 team that probably has massive playoff implications. Neil, one of those teams got absolutely boat raced by the New Orleans Saints this week. The other team thinks it can run the table.
They can both be right, and they can both be wrong.
It's interesting that the 3-7 New York Giants, who really should be thinking that the world is falling apart, have somehow found some cojones and a bit of bravado, and now think they're going to run the table.
Let's be honest. It would be absolutely hilarious if they went 9-7, dropped out of the reckoning for any possible quarterback, and convinced themselves that Eli was still the answer. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's like nothing fills me with like that. You obviously want to beat Dallas tomorrow, but if you don't, the thought that Jason Garrett's going to get a contract extension does fill me with a little bit of hope for the world.
I'm clapping along with him right now.
Yeah, exactly. We'll all be clapping. Although I won't be tomorrow. I'll be #beat Dallas all the way. 4-6 Philadelphia Eagles, Dutton. Your hope is it's the 2002 New England Patriots, and that makes perfect sense. As you said, we can all talk about the fact that they gave up a load of points to the Saints, but the major concern surely is the offense.
Hugely concerning. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles at the moment are a circle. They have no corners. So the defense is terrible. because the pass rush is not getting there. Timmy Jerningham's coming back in. He's not much of a pass rusher, but at least he'll make a difference and will enable a bit more rotation. As I said, you're going into... If you'd said the Saints are going to score 48 against the Eagles, you'd think, well, maybe the Eagles get 31. Or even better, maybe 38, because the Saints' defence is trash. And it is trash. I will stand by that. It is not a good defence. It just was not tested. The Eagles started slowly and are in a 10-point hole after going 3 and out, 2 and out, thanks to the arm punt from Carson Wentz. You can't start that way against Drew frigging Brees in the Superdome. It looked listless. You've said you're going to get Golden Tate involved, fine. You got Josh Adams involved, like you said you're going to, that's fine. But my God, Wentz looked terrible. That is the worst game I've seen Carson Wentz play.
You don't want to be panic stations, man, because you won the Super Bowl last year and you still got Carson Wentz, and it's all okay in that kind of situation. But when you look at what Doug Peterson and his staff are doing this year compared to last year, and Frank Reich is doing what he's doing in Indianapolis with Andrew Luck, you start going, oh, can I have that guy back calling plays again, please? Oh, I know he didn't call plays, but my understanding was, from what you've told me, I'd read from John Barshad, right, he was heavily involved in game script, game plans, yes, game communications.
Yeah, DiFilippo and Reich were big proponents of putting together the scripted plays. So, for those who don't know, one of the staples of the West Coast offense is scripting the first 15 plays of a game. That doesn't mean on this play we'll do this. On this play, you get a selection of 15 plays, and at one point or another you want to run them the first 15 offensive plays. Then after that you go back to what worked, or you go to something else. Yeah, that's fine. At the moment, whatever plays are getting put together by Groh, Deuce and Doug Peterson are shite. They are getting the Eagles in a hole, and the Eagles are they're starting slow, and then straight away it's like, okay, well, we can't run the ball now because we're 10 points down. And that's why the Eagles' second quarter and third quarters aren't too bad, but they start slow and then they go to sleep at the start of the fourth. That's not a winning formula, and I'm sorry, but that's on Doug and the coaching staff as much as it is on the players.
Unfortunately so, Neil. On the other side of the field, Giants this week on road to Eagles, then play the Bears, then Washington, then the Titans, and then the Colts, followed by a final game, which would be flex heaven for NBC, which would be Cowboys. I think it's naive to suggest that they could even win half of those games based on the talent. However, if you're going to give Saquon Barkley as much room as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, anything's possible.
Yeah, whatever you do, Tampa, don't cover him out with a flat. Little one for you, actually, Mainz. During his tenure in Washington, Colt McCoy has participated in 2 victories over Dallas, accumulating a 108 passer rating. Of players who have played multiple games against the Cowboys since 2014, only Drew Brees has a better passer rating against them than Colt McCoy.
I think so.
Beat Dallas.
There's a couple of things on this. Obviously, Thursday night, Dallas play Washington. We could be talking about this, and Washington could have won, could have been blown out. If Washington win, it won't be a blowout. They'll probably just win. They could just lose, or they will be blown out. 2 things should be noted. Regardless of what people in professional circles will tell you in relation to Texas, around that the favorite son is Tony Romo or whatever, it's not. It's Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy owns that state. He was the quarterback of the Texas Longhorns and consistently beat Oklahoma, which is what you're supposed to do. And also, I think, won a national title and took them to another final in which he was injured and eventually lost to, you'd be surprised to know, Nick Saban and Alabama. And also, he's been in that scheme a long time. And unlike some backup quarterbacks where you're just like the one we've got now, Mark Sanchez, that's never going to work. Colt McCoy is actually okay. Now, he's like not amazing, and he'd probably, if he had a 16-game season, he'd win 7 games maybe. But he's only got to play 6 games and he needs to win 3 of them. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think there's based on how Alex Smith has played this season, I don't think there's a massive drop off.
Would you agree or disagree with the fact that Ian Rappaport committed murder on the term stellar by saying that Alex Smith had been enjoying a stellar season for Washington? Has he? I must have missed it.
Did he spell Stella like Stella, as in he's had 15
Artois.
pints? He's had 15 pints of Stella before every game. Because wonderful human, tremendously disappointed for his leg to be in a billion pieces, but he hasn't been great, and the stats can tell you that. It's not been good.
The Washington offense has been largely unwatchable, even when you've won.
Yeah, it's not. They haven't. They played well on defense on Sunday and did enough to win the game. The offense wasn't good enough. And then if I was conspiracy theory hate ref guy, then I'd talk about that, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I personally think allowing rookie defensive backs to run 102 yards of the ball in the hands is probably
that's easily done it's easily done when you throw it at him to his chest with no one else around him.
As I said to you, I've waited 10 years for you to have that. Almost 10 years to the day. The week before Thanksgiving, Eagles at Ravens, 2008, Kevin Cobb decides, I'll just throw this straight to Ed Reed. 108 yards later, that's 34-7. And that, actually, if you remember, was the moment I walked out the house.
It was. I don't even think he got to the red zone by the time he'd walked out. In NFC East news, after Dallas, Washington play the Eagles on Monday night, which is an absolutely nailed-on loss, and I'll tell you why. Because it's almost like a mini bye, because it's Thursday to Monday night, and there's nothing that Jay Gruden's worse at than additional time with this team. If we played we got more chance of the Sunday to Thursday than the Thursday to Monday. If it was up to Washington, it was up to Washington. If we played every 3 days, we'd be one of the best teams in the NFL. The more time we have, the worse we get. Do you know what we did when we came out the bye this time? We played the Saints. That was 43-19, massive boat race. Next 3 games at Cowboys, at Eagles, at home to the Giants, at the Jaguars, who was probably on fire at that point. At the Titans, and then home to the Eagles. Washington need 3 victories. They need to find them fast.
Yeah.
Right. Neil, that's enough of the news. Let's get on to the fantasy stuff. Focusing, as we said, on Sunday and Monday. We're going to go good and bad on the standard scoring and also for DFS. And Neil's going to tell you who his fancy darling is.
Hello, darling.
Fancy darling this week is Matt Breida. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are welcoming the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is terrible. It's terrible to quarterbacks, terrible to running backs. They can't cover wide receivers, and they like tight ends scoring against them as well. So Matt Breida's had 15 rushing attempts per game in his last 3. And as I say, the Bucs are absolute hot garbage. So I think Breida, is pretty much entrenched as the lead back for the 49ers. And I think that offense will go as he goes. So I think he's in store for a good week.
In terms
I'll get out of the way, of course. That therefore means that Matt Breida is my running back 1 in my team of the week.
In really bad games on Sunday, you're gonna have to go some to beat San Francisco at Tampa Bay. That is a truly, truly awful game of American football.
The Steve Walsh Bowl? Steve Young even?
Steve Young even, yeah. It's there. That's Neil's running back 1 and his fancy darling, but let's find out who he will not be picking this week. That's his fancy loser.
The Los Angeles Chargers are playing the Arizona Cardinals, and that clearly means it's a Melvin Gordon week. And if it's a Melvin Gordon week, that means probably Phil Rivers is not someone you need to be considering, even though you're not going to have, there's no Jared Goff, there's no Patrick Mahomes. So I think Phil Rivers, right in the game level similarity projections article, his projections this week are very, very low all across the board. I don't think it's a reflection on him. As I say, I think it's the fact that the Cardinals are that bad at run defence. Melvin Gordon can have as much of the ball as he wants. So I'm not calling him a loser. I'm just saying I wouldn't pick Phil Rivers this week.
Just when you thought I'd just be allowed to call them LA, they then go and throw a classic San Diego Chargers performance straight into the mix. Terrible coaching, terrible game management, and I'm including Phil Rivers in that. What are you doing throwing that ball on the floor and giving him an extra 40 seconds? You wear
Take the sack.
Do something other than that keeps the clock running. That's where if you're a anti New England Patriots fan, i.e. you just want someone else to win. Seeing like Kansas City not win this week and then also see Los Angeles Chargers do that, you're like, oh god.
We've seen this movie before.
Neither of these teams that can beat New England. And then who are we relying on? Frickin' Pittsburgh. And they never beat New England. So, Tony, don't worry your little head off. You'll be fine. Again. That's it on Darling and Loser. But let's see what we're doing this week with our DraftKings Daily Fantasy Teams of the Week.
Mainz and Dutts Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
As I said, Dutton, last week, 2 victories for myself. Although I was panicking as the guy I was playing did have Todd Gurley in the Monday night game, and I didn't have any players in that game, and somehow he didn't have it. And I also had 0 points from Demaryius Thomas, which you did tell me about. Yeah. But luckily, the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and everyone's favourite T.Y. Hilton saved the day. As always, DraftKings lineup, 50,000, quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense and special teams. Neil, who's your quarterback, please?
Quarterback, a degree of interest in possibly the worst game of the entire slate. It's San Francisco 49ers quarterback Nick Mullins at 5,400. He's actually not been too bad in the 2 games he's played. His first game he was very good. Giants, he was functional. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have allowed every quarterback not named Nick Foles to score at least 20 points against them this season. I think they may have restricted another one, but his name escapes me at the moment. But everyone passes on them. They throw lots of passing touchdowns against them. Nick Mullins, say, is not terrific, but most of the big guns are out of the equation on Sunday because of the Thanksgiving slate. So, make do and mend.
And Washington got 16 points. It was Alex Smith.
Alex Smith, of course it was.
My quarterback one says, I don't want to pick Nick Mullins, and he's playing the garbage Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Who else is playing a tremendously awful, next-level bad defense? That's right. The Cleveland Browns are playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm picking Baker Mayfield. He's 5,500. Wow, the Bengals defense is the worst.
Do you think Baker will wake up feeling dangerous on Sunday?
I hope so. I don't care what anyone says, and I've said this since the start of the season, since he was drafted. I like Baker Mayfield. I like his attitude. I like his moxie. I hope he wakes up feeling tremendously dangerous.
I don't like his beard.
No, I don't either, really. Neil, your running back one is Matt Breida?
Yes.
My running back one is Christian McCaffrey. He is 7,900. He's playing the Seattle Seahawks. The offense goes through him. And I know we talk about should you take a running back in the top of the draft, and you probably shouldn't. but he's a really talented footballer, and I'm sure the Carolina Panthers are very happy that he is on the team.
Absolutely. As you say, he's seeing 7 targets a game and he's averaging nearly 3 red zone touches a game. So he's adding something in the receiving game, which, as I say, in a PPR format is worth its weight in gold. And the high leverage of the scoring situations, he's a good chance to score a touchdown. The Seahawks have not been terrible this year. As I say, I think they've been one of the more pleasant surprises, especially on defence. They are an offence to my eyes on offence because I don't want to see Russell Wilson throw 10 times a game. I find it offensive, but you can't argue that the formula seems to be working for them. This is a sneaky must-win game for both teams, actually, when you think about it.
Yes, absolutely. I think Seahawks are 5-5 and Panthers are 6-4, both in the wild card hunt. So massive game. Carolina will be very happy. They're at home where they've been good, unlike on the road where they have been absolutely disgustingly bad.
Except in Philly.
Yeah, who's running back? Yeah, except in Philadelphia. There's a pattern here. Who's your running back to, Neil?
So I wanted to have a piece of someone going up against that pitiful Bengals defence. This is what happens, you see, when you put a winner in charge of your defence, like Hugh Jackson. It turns to rat crap. So I want Nick Chubb, 6,300. Last time we saw him, he was breaking off the longest run in Cleveland Browns history. That's right, longer than anything Jim Brown did. I really like Chubb. I think of the running backs. I thank you. I think for the run-in they have between now and the end of the season, I did write a few weeks ago for Yahoo that he was a player who needed to be picked up because they have featured him since they got rid of Carlos Hyde. Duke Johnson is still coming in and taking a lot of the receptions, but Nick Chubb was used in the passing game to an extent against the Atlanta Falcons. 6,300. If you'd have paired him with Baker Mayfield, then you would have had been very, very dangerous. But I'll take any bit of Chubb that I can get.
I just love the idea that that's the longest run in Cleveland Browns history. It's madness, because it wasn't 100 yards. I don't know, maybe Jim Brown was amazing, but maybe he just ran for 40-yard touchdowns. My running back 2 is a weird one. You can tell that I'm heavy on wide receiver 1 and 2 here. I've gone Gus Edwards, Oakland against Baltimore. That was the guy who was next to Lamar Jackson who ran the other 700 plays when Lamar didn't run the 950 that he ran. Interesting game script. Obviously, this is probably based on Lamar Jackson still playing. I assume that John Harbaugh is, as we speak, hitting Joe Flacco in the hip with a metal bar.
Well, he'd only hit him in the hip if he actually had a hip injury.
Wasn't it hip?
Joe Flacco's not injured, mate. Don't kid yourself.
Oh no, okay, yeah. No, but
yeah.
I think we're going to get to a situation where Joe Flacco may have to be injured, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Gus Edwards sounds like the local handyman. It's not someone you want.
Gus Edwards won a NASCAR race in 2014 at Talladega.
Yeah, Gus Edwards is he's the type he'll fix your leaking tap. I'm not convinced he's a real person. I think he's a made-up player from Madden. But they're playing the Raiders, and the Raiders are crap. So,
but they're also running Georgia Tech's triple option running attack.
We have seen in the past.
Literally didn't throw.
We have seen in the past, obviously, with Robert Griffin, the opportunity that is open to a running back tied to a mobile quarterback. You just hope that. I don't think it's sustainable, Lamar Jackson carrying the ball 27 times. I could be going out on a limb there. So how about you do it 10 times and you give the other 17 to Gus? That'd be lovely.
It's one of them weird ones where obviously they want Lamar Jackson to be the future running back, but it's not like in the olden days where you would have already paid him $50 million because he was a first-round draft pick. You paid him zero money, so you're almost like, 27 runs, enjoy yourself.
27 runs, YOLO.
Yeah, it's like this guy was supposedly threw better than Robert Griffin, and at least we let Robert throw. You're not even letting him throw. You may as well just have had a running back there. Yeah. Anyway, who's your wide receiver 1, Neil?
8,800, Odell Beckham.
Hey, your team's round. It's
My
got
team's
no
round.
corners. I saw today in the news shot. By the way, I've also picked Odell Beckham Jr. Philadelphia are out there first starting four cornerbacks. That's not good when you're coming up against Odell Beckham Jr.
No. I mean, the only hope is that Beckham doesn't go absolutely ham and is restricted, but he's a good bet to score a touchdown because he loves pissing the Eagles fans off in Philly.
It's almost like there's a pattern of diminutive, mouthy wide receivers who love scoring touchdowns against Philadelphia. Weird. Who's your
Indeed.
wide receiver 2, Neil?
Wide receiver 2, as I say, I don't think it's going to be a good game for Phil Rivers, but from a volume point of view and in a PPR format, Keenan Allen, 7,100.
Yeah, I just hope the better this week. You need to get that stink off. But this has got Los Angeles winning by 4 points written all over it.
Oh, yeah. This is a coupon buster, this one.
You don't be taking Los Angeles in the points here. This week, Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers says, "Thank goodness I've got Jameis Winston back, because I'm on the Jameis Winston side of I get the ball when he's the quarterback, not the other side of the fence when Ryan Fitzpatrick is and he's in the other team." So luckily, as Jameis is back starting this week, 7,700 against a terrible San Francisco 49ers secondary, Mike Evans goes large.
You can tell Dirk Cotter is not going to be there next year because there's not a chance in hell if he was, Jameis Winston would be starting. Because if he gets injured, they're on the hook.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, Winston's not there next year either.
But I guess. But what are they going to do then? They're just going to blow it up and start again? Like, Todd McShay did his first draft. I know we're not big draft people, but the highest rated quarterback is like 16. Like, this isn't like some draft that's filled with quarterbacks. This is an issue.
But you are going to see that this off-season there will be veterans called. There will be free agents who will be, they're going to have to go to because the rookies ain't working. So I don't know whether it's well, let's speculate. Is it going to be a Flacco, a Foles, a Manning, something like that? But James Winston is, he's poisoned for that locker room because he's an idiot. And he's also, let's be honest, he's not good enough.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not. The problem, Jameis Winston is an issue because he can look good enough.
Yeah.
You'd wish he was just terrible. It's easier. It's easier to let terrible go. But tease of good mixed with terrible, you think, I can fix terrible. I can get rid of those bad plays. You can't.
Yeah. Very, very, it takes an awful lot to cure being an arsehole.
Yeah, that's the issue. The crab leg thing is still an issue for me. Wide receiver 3, Neil.
Alshon Jeffrey, 5,800. Loves scoring touchdowns against the Giants. He scored 4 in his last 2 games against them.
I think he gets a lot of play, and I understand it. I'm not saying he's an issue on the Eagles' offense. He's not. But the issue is that there's no Torrey Smith. I think you've mentioned this already this season, and Alshon's like a jump ball receiver. He doesn't get open, and that's not necessarily a problem. But when you haven't got someone to break the defense, you get less space.
Yeah,
I like Alshon Jeffrey. He's good, but he needs someone a burner on the other side, and Philadelphia haven't got that at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just hoping if it's going to be a dink and dunk type of game, then Jeffrey's past track record against the Giants, I say, I'm basically banking on touchdowns here for him, but that would be nice. Absolutely.
My wide receiver 3 is, I'm going to say this right, Kiki Kuti.
Kiki Kuti.
He is 4,600. He's playing in the Tennessee Titans. Got a good defense, but with additional focus on DeAndre Hopkins, I expect Kuti, who at the moment is wide receiver 2 on that Texans team to get a lot of play and score some points.
QT has seen 7 targets in 3 of the 4 full games, 7 or more targets in 3 of the 4 full games he's played, and in 2 of those games has seen more targets than DeAndre Hopkins. As I say, he's a better option, he's a better fit for the offense as it's currently constituted than Demaryius Thomas. And as I say, the Titans' defense isn't bad, but it's burnable. Especially if you can get QT, who's quite, is quick, he's nippy. Get him up against Malcolm Butler. It's burnt bread. So.
Sweet burnt toast. Who's your tight end, Neil?
I'm a bit dubious that he might actually miss out, in which case I'm a bit worried. But I'm going with David Njoku, who's had a good season. He didn't do much in the last game because he didn't have to. It was a Nick Chubb game. It's always time for a Chubb. I'm just going to keep going with that.
Just keep it going, Neil. And you're trying to make me laugh, so good luck.
Yeah. The Bengals have bled fancy points to tight ends, so if Njoku is fit and healthy, he should see some good usage, particularly in the red zone. He's got quite a good link up, and he has been quite productive since Baker Mayfield became the starter. He's 3,800. I am worried, though, as I say, that as the week progresses, if his injury status doesn't improve, then literally, on this team, I've only got $600 more. That only takes me up to 4,004 to get a replacement for him. In which case, a terrible option would not be... Cameron Brate would not be a terrible option, because in keeping with the, thank God Jameis is back in, because for some reason, despite going to Harvard, Cameron Brate does not have any connection with Ryan Fitzpatrick at all.
It also helps Cameron Brate that O.J. Howard is now on injured reserve. Another one bites
I
the
love
dust.
her.
Yeah, my tight end is also David Njoku. He gets to be my handcuff with Baker Mayfield, playing again, as you mentioned, the terrible Cincinnati Bengals defense, 3,800. Neil, who's your flex?
Flex is Josh Adams, because the Giants' defense have not been good against the run. So let's commit to the run, Doug. Josh Adams has been the best running back for the Eagles this season, especially since Jay went down, and also got some play in the passing game last week. I think he had more targets than Alshon Jeffrey, and certainly more than Golden Tate. He's 3,800. He's not terrible. He doesn't look awful. I mean, I'm not saying he's like, he's not tremendous. He's not, the next Arian Foster undrafted free agent superstar, but he's the closest thing to a workhorse back the Eagles have got at the moment.
My flex is Vance McDonald. I hate having 2 tight ends in this, really hate it, but when you picked Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham Jr. and Mike Evans, needs become musts. Playing the Denver Broncos, who will have been feeling themselves after winning last week against Los Angeles, I expect them to fall a bit down to earth this week, and Pittsburgh cannot be as bad as they were for 3.9 quarters against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The only thing, if I was a Pittsburgh fan, I'd be like, last few years we would have lost that game, and we didn't lose that game. That's got to be seen as a good thing.
Yeah. The Broncos, of course, did allow a touchdown to the rotting corpse of Antonio Gates last week as well, so... But this is Vance McDonald has everything you're looking for in a tight end. Most importantly, he's on the field all the time. He's not like a tight end like Trey Burton. He is built like a tight end, so he holds up in the blocking. But the problem is, I still just can't shake that sometimes, just to mess with our heads, Ben Roethlisberger throws it to Jesse James more than Vance McDonald, just to piss us off.
Probably. Neil, who's your defense and special teams?
The Buffalo Bills.
Wow. I'm just waiting to see. I'm just checking outside. No, the apocalypse isn't coming. Okay, talk me through it.
Since week 2, Blake Bortles is throwing more and more interceptions and he's taking more and more sacks. The Bills' defense is not terrible. It's just, unfortunately, if you get put in short fields all the time, you're going to concede points.
Agreed.
This game is going to be... You said San Francisco, Tampa Bay is going to be garbage. This is going to match it. I think the Bills are going to win. and I think the defence is going to help propel them. I did contemplate going for a McCoy Bills stack, but I can't really trust LeSean McCoy this year. He's had one good game, and that was against the Jets, who didn't turn up. But I know I did say I would always attack the Bills from here on out on offence. I think the Bills' offence at the moment is better than the Jaguars, who pretty much their offence is give it to Leonard Fournette. He's had 52...
That's supposed to control the clock and win you the game, and it didn't do it in the fourth quarter. So
he's had 52 carries, 52 carries in the last 2 weeks, and they've lost both games heavily. So, well, not heavily last week.
When you don't win the Super Bowl and stuff like this happens, at least like say the Eagles, you won the Super Bowl. So this year you're like whatever, but like, what are the Jags doing now? Like, what's next? They need a quarter. Like, surely now the Bortles experiment has got to end. So therefore, they need a quarterback, and they're gonna have to pay a load of wedge for him.
I cannot stand watching Blake Bortles sidearm the ball. It makes me physically sick.
Do you know, it sounds really weird, like, if you want the exact opposite of Blake Bortles, surely you go for Jameis Winston.
Florida boy, yes, so yeah, keep him in state.
Just like, at least he'll throw the ball, you know what I mean? Like, and I know it's like, well, they both throw interceptions, yeah, but, like, Jameis will throw it downfield.
Yeah.
My defensive special teams, the quarterback killing Houston Texans, they're playing the Tennessee Titans, who, as we speak, are not playing Marcus Mariota due to a stinger. And got absolutely destroyed by the Indianapolis Colts. And if Mariota doesn't play, I expect similar.
Yeah, if it's come to this, Washington signed Mark Sanchez, Nathan Peterman got to work out for the Detroit Lions, Blaine Gabbert is starting for the Titans. Your Honour, that's the first, middle and closing arguments of Colin Kaepernick's collusion case.
It's not if you're the NFL, this is not a good look. It is not a good look. Don't talk to me about knowing the offense and all that bull crap. This is not good. But what can you do?
This is the best thing that I really loved. I think it was Schefter who tweeted all the links to his past.
Sanchez?
Mark Sanchez. Oh. Yeah, it's like, that's lovely. Do you remember those halcyon days of the Jets? Yeah, he was great, wasn't he?
Like, I don't, like, so what, he doesn't know the plays? Like Mark Sanchez does and he can't make him. Brilliant. That's great. I can read the book too and memorise it. Fantastic. Doesn't make me any good at anything. Let's recap, Neil. Who's your quarterback?
Nick Mullins.
I've got Baker Mayfield. God, sorry, when you just look and you think this is not how the season was supposed to go when you're starting Nick Mullins as a relevant fantasy starter. Running back 1.
Matt Breida.
Let's see previous comment for details. Christian McCaffrey, running back 2.
Nick Chubb.
I've got NASCAR legend Gus Edwards. Wide receiver 1.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Same. Wide receiver 2.
Keenan Allen.
I've got Mike Evans. Wide receiver 3.
Alshon Jeffrey.
I have Kiki Kuti.
Cutie.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, I can't say it. I call the Chargers San Diego all the time. Give me a break. Who's your tight end, Neil?
David Njoku.
Same. Flex.
Josh Adams.
I've got Vance McDonald. And who's your defense and special teams?
The Bills of Buffalo.
And I've got the Texans of Houston. Neil, that's it for the show. Where can people catch you for the rest of the week?
The rest of the week, most of my work is already out there in the public domain. My number fire article on the 5 important stats from last week, the wide receiver usage report, the game level similarity projections for quarterback and tight end, all on RotoViz. Also, I've got a piece out on Yahoo looking at the sophomore wide receivers from 2017 and what their prospects are looking like for the rest of the season. Any opportunity to write about Kenny Golladay, I'll of course take gratefully. And also, you can find out this week, I was on the Rotoviz mailbag show with the fancy gumshoe himself, Jeremy Hart, so that'll be out there. I'll tweet that out. And hopefully back again with Nat and Iron Mike on Sunday on TalkSport 2.
I am at
Tilting?
Maindy7. Yeah, I am at Maindy7. Combined with at waxing_lyrical. We've been included in a tweet from our friend Tony, which has gone so viral on Pat's world. It's absolutely unbelievable. My phone won't stop. Enjoy your Thanksgiving games, people in the UK. Enjoy Thanksgiving, people of the United States of America. We look forward to those additional 3 games, and there's only one thing to say before these top guys are out, and that is, of course, #BeatDallas.
Beat Dallas.